right, ladies and gentlemen, we're in a real treat tonight here for those who are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio because this is a guest. I want to say we've wanted to have him on, I don't know, maybe a year, 2 years at this point, and his journey speaks for itself. And leave aside the fact he is actually the boss of our co-host here on Sportswire Radio Friday nights, and with us once again, the brute force Brad Weiss. And that journey has took him to Southside High School, where he was in their athletics Hall of Fame. Cortland Red Dragons, where up until recently he was the all-time leading scorer for the men's basketball team. Even played professionally for a little while in Israel. He's a FIBA trainer, and as we just mentioned, he's known right now most notably as the president and CEO of the Level Up Long Island Basketball Organization, which has a who's who of many, many friends of Sportswire Radio, plus much, much more. He needs no further introduction, but we're going to give it to him anyway because that's our calling card. Well, he is a Hall of Famer. So, wait for it. Further ado here on the Sports Report. Number one, the Sports Show. Southside High School Athletics Hall of Famer, second all time for our Cortland Red Dragons men's basketball team and scorer, FIBA basketball trainer, and the president and the CEO of Level Up Long Island. That is Mr. Winter Fresh himself, Jesse Winter.
I don't know if I can top that introduction, but I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a long time coming, and I'm just happy to be here.
Wait, time out for a second. Time before I get to Brad, which I will get to Brad in a second. You're telling me you were a professional basketball player. You're a FIBA trainer. You've been number one up until recently, all time in Cortland in points. You're a Hall of Famer, and you didn't get an introduction in your long career like this one before? You got to be lying to me.
It sounded like Michael Jordan coming out in the Chicago Bulls theme song.
Well, you are a big deal in some parts of the area, but obviously we'll get to all that shortly. But I want to bring in the brute force Brad Weiss, because the brute force Brad Weiss, this is your moment. This is kind of where you get to shine and kind of tell for those who are listening and watching not only why Jesse Winter is the greatest boss you've ever had, but also in kind of the kind of person and what he does here for you and so many others with the Level Up Basketball Organization, which you have been a huge part of since you left St. Joe's.
Yeah, well, he's definitely one of the best bosses to have, and I'll get that in a second because I don't know if anyone deals with more of my problems than Jesse Winter. But anyway, to get to the stuff that we need to talk about tonight, listen, Jesse is the ultimate leader and the ultimate example of what it's like to be, again, a great basketball player, but also a great mind of the game. He's been a mentor for me and my coaching, obviously coming up. Getting to join Level Up was one of the best things that ever happened to my basketball career, not only playing, but obviously now coaching, which was always the dream of mine. But Jesse, once again, as you just said, Tom, the resume speaks for itself. I mean, obviously a Southside legend, went up to Cortland, which is obviously a very well-respected program here in New York. Obviously, my buddy, Brendan Fitzpatrick's an assistant coach there now. And again, everybody knows Jesse Winter when you bring that name up at Cortland. He was one of the best scorers there, one of the best players there. And again, that's also not only has translated to here, but he's also one of the best men's league players on Long Island as well now. We'll get to that a little bit later. But certainly, again, when it comes to Level Up, Jesse is the ultimate leader. What I love about his leadership style is that he does it by example, but he loves to get the interaction from his coaches, and he really believes in the guys that he employs. And again, that's something that means a lot to me. It means a lot to his program, the guys who are coaching in his program. And it speaks for itself how the success of the program has went, with all the teams that we've had success with. We'll get to that later, right? All the success the program has had in regards to building a great coaching staff and a great resume where people want to come to us. It's all because of this guy right here, Jesse Winter. So I know he's going to give us his answer. He's going to be like, he's going to be nice and all that. But in the way, All right. We all know that Jesse's the guy that's Level Up. Level Up is Jesse, and he's done a terrific job with our program, and I can't thank him enough for just to be able to be a part of it. I mean, it's just awesome to be a part of the family. We say family, but it really is a family with Level Up. And once again, that comes from Jesse and his leadership, the way he's been brought up. And obviously, like I said, his career and his resume speaks for itself. And it's truly a pleasure just to be in his wing and a part of his program like I am.
Absolutely, no question about that. And surely we'll get to the journey in a second. I want to give a shout out to a guy listening all the way from California on YouTube. That is Skulls the Soul Hunter, and he says, "Good evening." Also says, "Which one of us for the Long Island Ice?" Because I feel like I need one right now because my allergies are like through the roof right now. I am on literally like every single thing possible. Unfortunately, when it gets as hot as it is right now, that's how I feel. But that's here and there. But you know what? I actually do want to talk about Level Up first. I know we could talk about your career, get into all that stuff for sure. But Level Up, for those that don't know what it does, I mean, talk about the inspiration behind creating the program and just kind of what you guys do on a day-to-day basis. Not just, I think, for the game of basketball, but really making a difference for so many people's lives, especially here on Long Island and elsewhere.
Yes. So, I mean, starting up Level Up in the first place, it was just trying to do it for the right reasons. It's a game that's given so much to me. It's given so much to Brad. So to be able to make a career out of it and, see the kids and see, the coaches give back just like I'm giving, it really makes it all worth it. I mean, there's definitely adversity and there's stuff that we face on a day-to-day, but what I always try to remind myself is through the good, bad, and the ugly, it's basketball. So like, if there's something that needs to be fixed or something that needs to be adjusted, it is basketball. I worked in advertising for 3 years, pharmaceutical, and
oh wow, okay,
I learned a lot there. But when there's problems there and you're dealing with clients that are commercial and major, that's real stress. When you're going through it on this end, and it at the end of the day comes down to basketball, it makes it all worth it. And I've been fortunate to have the success, but you keep mentioning me and being Level Up, but the people that I surround myself with, the coaches are really what makes Level Up. And I there's 50 plus teams in the program right now, and I coach 2 of them, so we have a really great reputation, in my opinion. Hopefully Brad thinks the same. And it's not just for my coaching, because if it was for my coaching, I would be coaching 5, 10, 15, 20 teams. But I have 2 teams, and I think that that's where my coaches deserve unbelievable credit, because I trust them and I know their coaching pedigree is where it needs to be. They're professionals on the court and off the court. They know how to deal with kids. They know how to deal with parents. And at the end of the day, they're trying to get the best out of the kids. And I think that's what makes the program. And we're consistent as a program. We're honest, we're open, and it's what I've always wanted Long Island basketball to be. And I grew up playing Long Island basketball, and I'm just trying to give these kids and the coaches and everybody around here the best experience that they could possibly have.
Absolutely, no question about that. Long Island basketball, and obviously covering it here for the past 4.5 years on Sportzwire Radio, it really has a rich, deep history, and reminds me so much of where I'm from here in Staten Island, in parts of Brooklyn, where a lot of great D3 basketball players and elsewhere, and there's a home here for it. But you spoke about your coaches, and obviously you want to talk about those. And I mean, how are you able to kind of recruit such a great staff? And I mean, obviously you are great, but I mean, you do, as you correctly pointed out, have a wonderful litany of coaches underneath you, and kind of talk about and how you found all these great coaches to help you with the organization.
It's kind of a domino effect, and I did have a little bit of a head start from growing up in Long Island, because I already knew a lot of these people. A lot of my coaches I grew up either playing with or playing against, and to me they're a reflection of me, and they're a reflection of the program. So, and if I bring in a coach that I trust, and I trust their opinion, and they bring in somebody and they come to me and they say, Jesse, we got to get this guy. Well, I mean, that's what I need to hear. That's all I need to hear. And obviously there's an interview process and I have conversations with them. But let's say Brad, for instance, comes to me and says, I have a coach for you. You have to get this guy. That's really all I need to hear, because I trust my coaches and I trust their opinion. And that goes a long way for me.
Absolutely, no question about that. And I want to bring in the Brew Force, Brad Weiss, because Jesse obviously references you. I mean, is that something where you feel like, in a lot of ways, where I think anybody is successful in something, everybody kind of can voice their opinion and maybe bring some ideas that maybe even coach needs to kind of use or help in terms of improving what you guys do in the mottos. I mean, is that something where maybe you can freely suggest something or do something, whether it's maybe something in terms of helping with the skill set or maybe even just different coaches? I mean, talk about your role, Brad, in terms of what you do on a day-to-day basis with Level Up and how coach kind of you guys work together.
Yeah, well, like I said about family, the best part about the program is that we work together with all our decisions. Jesse's very great with, again, like he's been saying, he trusts us, and it's definitely shown that he does, because he takes what we think, like how we assess the players, what level we think that they're at and above, right? And then creates a team that we feel can be competitive. And I think that our teams, as shown by all the winning that we've done, have been very competitive and a lot of fun to coach. And for me, that freedom and that ability, right, to not only coach, because obviously that's ultimately what I want to do, but also have an impact on the kids' lives, like, Jesse said, is the best part. But ultimately just having that freedom, right? Again, Jesse's the guy who is very open to ideas. He's allowed me to come in and kind of, reflect my opinions on some things, whether it's from tryouts, my teams, the way that I coach and my approach to it. He's allowed me to have that opportunity to speak and be there. And we have coaches meetings, sometimes as well, where we're able to all talk and have our opinion on things and some certain topics. So that's something that not every program has. Some programs might have a leader and then a few other guys. Everybody else kind of just has to listen to them. We feel that all of us have a say, and Jesse, again, is the one that allows that to happen with, of course, Trevor, Kelly, our directors as well. They do a great job of kind of just allowing us to speak and allowing us to feel like we have a say in what happens with Level Up. And again, when that happens, we all come together, we bond, and we're great friends, not only when it comes to coaching, but obviously when it comes to decisions, when it comes to just being around each other. It's just a great program. That's why I really enjoy being in it, really because of this. I mean, again, I love coaching, but the fact that we're all together like this and we all work together and we all, talk about it a lot. I mean, all these decisions and we feel like we can talk about it. It's a big part of why I love being with Level Up.
Absolutely no question about that. And I want everybody to follow Level Up Basketball on Instagram at levelup_LI. Please support all the great things that Level Up not only does for basketball, but I think for the community as a whole here on Long Island. And I was wondering about this, Coach Winter, in terms of how is maybe running the program and working with all these different great basketball minds, and I'll certainly get to one that has been a long-time friend of Sportswires in a second, help maybe shape your relationship with the game of basketball?
Well, the game of basketball is always growing and it's always evolving. So, just because I'm running the program doesn't mean I'm like the end all be all. Well, one thing I'll do is I'll watch the coaches and I'll pick up some things and I'll tell them straight up, like, I'm going to use that drill. I'm going to take that drill. And I think that's what this is it's a basketball network that's being brought together, and we're there to help each other out. I genuinely want to see my coaches win as people and as coaches. And I think that's the most important part. We're not, wishing on each other's downfalls or, rooting that, they don't do well as a coach. Like, we're all on the same team here. And I think that is super important with Brad saying the family aspect of it. Cause we're looking out for each other. And, if we need somebody to lean on when we're going through tough times, we have a great network of coaches that we can really do that. And, I think, hopefully that's why coaches have been loyal and have stayed with the program because of that approach.
No question about that. And I actually kind of wanted to segue into somebody that one of the coaches that you have underneath that Brad and I have known very well, come on a couple of different times here on Sportswire Radio. That is most, of course, Kelly Dempsey. And of course, the Dempsey family speaks for themselves, obviously, in Hicksville and what they've done, obviously, with the Nassau County PAL. And Coach, I wanted to talk about Coach Dempsey for a second. Obviously, she's always doing great things pretty much everywhere I go. I see her doing something. She's got her own program, also a little bit branching out. And just talk about what the role that Coach Dempsey brings to you guys in the organization, her wealth of knowledge of basketball.
Yeah, and she's a basketball mind. She's helping growing the game, with Level Up and also doing some things on her own as well. And I think that's very important on the girl side. Some basketball programs are only trying to do the boy side of things, and it's important for us to give the girls the same treatment. So I'm rooting for all my, girl coaches and all the girl players to start as early as possible, because, there's no reason why, boys should be starting. Like, for us, boys start in like first grade, and a lot of girls are starting in fourth grade. And, I'm trying to change that mold of how things have been on Long Island basketball, because there's a lot of talent, and you saw that in the NCAA tournament. That hopefully is a butterfly, as a domino effect to basketball all over. But Coach Kelly has been awesome. Ironically, she just left my house like 30 minutes ago because we were going through uniforms that we're trying to get out to our spring teams for this weekend.
Well, why didn't you have Brad over the house to help with that? Shouldn't that be one of Brad's roles?
Brad was running the Level Up camp today, so
my
thing. Brad had his thing, and so we got different coaches doing different things. But yeah, I had a different task today.
Fair enough there. I mean, boy, what a small world there. I also want to give a couple of shout-outs to a few people tuned in out there. Skull says everyone should get a Long Island iced tea. Also want to give a shout-out to a very, very good friend of ours out in the UK. And it's like, I think it's 1:48 a.m. out there. And I'm saying, wow, some people really they're devoted fans to sports. Well, we have a lot of new subscribers out there on YouTube and Facebook. And I really appreciate certainly this individual who might be tied to the lawman, Kyle Kennedy. So I really appreciate that. But, Brad, in terms of, let's say, your job in a day in a bit, now we kind of know a little bit about that, and coaches kind of talked about all the teams that are involved in the program. But as we're getting into the season, I know all the coaches, you guys are going to be super busy, I assume, between this week coming up and probably till, I guess, sometime in the summer. I mean, what is a day in and day like basis for you with Level Up in the organization? I mean, kind of talk about that for those that are listening and watching and what you guys kind of do that don't know.
Yes.
And I think Brad Weiss froze because Brad Weiss is kind of awestruck by being with Jesse Winter on the radio. There we go.
You got me back? All right, there we go. All right, so basically, we're placed based on, obviously the amount of teams that we have. For myself this spring, I have 5. We have, league games, our tournament games. So I'm, obviously coaching based on the schedule that I get from, the leagues and the tournaments. Obviously, we have practices. Our older teams practice twice a week. Some of our younger teams once a week, depending on the team. But ultimately, yeah, we have practices a few days a week. We have games a few days a week. We have tournaments on the weekend, which, again, all these different things, obviously, a few nights a week. But again, it's all worth it when you're having fun and you're enjoying coaching. And again, I enjoy going to the gym every practice and putting together a plan and getting excited for how I'm going to execute the plan with my team. Obviously, like we talked about earlier, right? Just the development of the kids, just being around the kids, looking at them and seeing them smile and have fun. That's one of the best parts of this job. And it's through practice, through the games, through tournaments. Obviously, that's something that means a lot to me. And then, Jesse has been very fortunate to me to give me those opportunities like this week to run our camps. We have clinics as well. We offer training, which is great. We're the one-on-one or group that we provide. Most of our coaches are great with working with the kids, whether they need it, in a certain skill or a certain, group of kids want to work together. Those are things that we all offer, and those are things that we do on a week-to-week basis. But again, all these things are just really enjoyable. One of the best parts for me is that I do something that I love. That's one of the things I always say to myself, even through some of the tough losses, even through some of the tough days, the one day maybe, a kid gets mad at you or something. You're enjoying what you do because you love what you do. And that's something that would Level Up and all these things I talked about. Every day is a lot of fun because you're enjoying what you're doing. So that's something that's big for me. And again, it's just a lot of fun to coach basketball. And like I said earlier in the show, that was always a dream of mine. So the fact that I'm living it out is awesome.
Absolutely. And I want to give a couple of plugs here. First, obviously, Coach Dempsey, I know, is involved in a Level Up Coach's Choice Lightning College Showcase starting tomorrow, all throughout the weekend. So you can go to Coach at KED Training, also levelup_LI for more information on Twitter. Also, the 22nd to 23rd, we have a Zero Gravity Sportica Big Time Challenge. That sounds big time. Also, May 13th to the 14th, we have a Zero Gravity Think Pink. That sounds pretty cool, right? 19th to the 21st. First, Coach's Choice, the Island Challenge. June 3rd to 4th, we have a Coach's Choice Tri-State Basketball Challenge. That sounds really impressive. And July 6th to the 8th, we have Run for Roses. So forget about your Guns N' Roses tickets this summer. Go see Run for Roses coming up here July 6th to the 8th. And thank you, Coach Fuller. I have to ask you, Coach Winston, you talked about 50 teams. You got all these different things going on. I mean, as a president and CEO, and I'm curious because we had a guy, Gordon Scheuer, on Monday, and he's a business assistant at Stony Brook. And he's talking about all these responsibilities. And I was kind of curious in a way, for those that are listening and watching, I mean, how do you keep track of all this stuff and able to run something as successful in what you guys have developed here? I mean, just a lot there we kind of digest. And how do you keep all this in one place and do as well as you have?
Experience. I've been doing this for 6 years now, so I think that definitely comes out. And it's something that, it's starting to get a little bit more legitimized. And I think when I started to get into it, there was travel programs, but it wasn't as much of like a business. And, I want this experience for the parents and the kids to feel just exactly that. So we're more than just the basketball teams on the court. I take a lot of pride in staying organized and, with the schedule and making sure everybody gets their gear on time. All those little things, they really start to add up with the makeup of a program. So definitely a lot that goes on the back end behind the scenes, but you get used to it over time. And, the good thing for me, like I said, with trusting my coaches, we have that many teams, but I trust my coaches. I genuinely do. And sometimes there's hiccups here and there, but I know that the coaches are going to be responsible. I know that they're going to be professional. I know they're going to take care of what they need to take care of. So, at the end of the day, the responsibility comes on me to make sure that we're picking the teams and we're putting them in the right place as far as practices and tournaments. So, and I think it's important that I keep my ear to the ground as a director of this program, because I need to know exactly what's going on. I want to hear what the parents are saying. I want to hear what the coaches are saying. I want to hear what the kids are saying. So it's not like I'm an owner of this program that's disconnected and I have no idea what's going on. I'm very much involved. So, these tasks that I'm doing is stuff that I enjoy, but some of the things can be tedious.
Oh, I'm sure they're tedious. And I want to give a couple of shout outs to some people that are tuned in that both of you guys know. Obviously, Coach Dempsey is tuned in. I want to make sure I give a big shout out to Coach Dempsey. We just gave you a big plug, Coach. I hope that you had heard the plugs. And also Coach Ashley Jackson. We know Coach very well here from our friends over at Five Towns College. And Brad, I feel like that's somebody we probably really owe an appearance to. And especially Coach Jackson, Brad. I want to give a few words or two, a few thoughts maybe for Coach Jackson, especially. I know Coach Dempsey's tuned in, and Coach Dempsey's always listening to us. But Coach Jackson, I feel like I always want to give a nice little mention to.
Yeah, well, she's awesome. Both of them are awesome. I mean, Jesse talked about the girls program before. I mean, they do an absolutely fantastic job between those two you mentioned and, of course, Erin Tully. They do a terrific job. But those two specifically, first with Kelly, obviously, I've already, had a great relationship with Kelly prior to Level Up. And obviously, we talked about all the different things she's doing. But, she's just, again, another really supportive person. She's doing a great job as our director of girls as well with Level Up. So, again, she's one of the ones that influenced me to coach and also got me into this. So I give her a lot of credit. Obviously, Ed Dempsey as well, the legendary Ed Dempsey. So I want to give him a shout out. But Coach Jackson, I mean, my favorite thing about Coach Jackson is just how hyped and as excited as she is.
I'll tell you what, she's got energy. I'll tell you what, she would be great for wrestling in terms of her energy, her enthusiasm. I mean, I know you're going to kill me for saying that, Coach, but I mean, we do a lot of wrestling on Sportzwire. We're very big around the world with that. And Coach has got that wrestling attitude, almost like a Bianca Belair out there. She got that fire. She's got that. I like it.
Well, if there's really one word that describes Ashley, it's energy. I mean,
I like her.
She always has energy. She's always bringing them. I mean, you just look at the one highlight video I posted yesterday, and you hear Ashley in the background going crazy. So
I know. I saw.
That's Ashley in a nutshell. And she, again, as a coach, she's awesome. I've gotten both of them, both Kelly and Ashley, I've gotten a lot to learn from them. They've given me some nuggets and some advice that I've really taken. So they're fantastic. They're great leaders of their teams. And they're also, again, just great influencers. They really do a great job of, doing a great job with girls basketball. And these girls love playing for those two. And again, the energy they bring day in and day out is infectious for all these girls that want to play for our program.
For you, Coach Winter, when it comes to energy and enthusiasm, I know you need that, especially in basketball, for a number of different reasons. But even when it comes to like a Coach Jackson, for example, I mean, how important is that for your program that you have people that want to be here? It's different when you said you did advertising. And I know that world, and, it's kind of like, how can I put it, a dog-eat-dog world, right? But with what you're trying to do, what you're trying to build, I have to think there's a lot with enthusiasm, energy, positivity, and somebody like a Coach Jackson, I'm sure, brings that, essentially, since Brad spoke about it. But how important is it for you to surround yourself with people like that on a day-in and day basis?
I'm not going to lie. I don't have that energy.
I wasn't going to say anything because Brad was telling us the complete opposite.
I don't have that energy. That might be from the hay fever that's going on outside. But
I'm with you, man. Right now, if I could just put my head toward a pillow and not wake up for 2 months, I'd be pretty happy right now.
No, but different. One thing about our coaches too is there's different personalities. There's different coaching styles. So, one thing there's a coach for everybody in Level Up, in my opinion. And Ashley is one of her thing is she definitely brings energy. She's, she does an unbelievable job building relationships with the players. And I think, it's definitely important to bring enthusiasm and show the kids that you want to be there, because if you show that you want to be there and you've been through it as a player and you're excited, it sheds off to them. And if you come in and you're dead and you're just kind of doing it to make a few hours, that's not what it's about. And that's not the type of people that I bring on board. So I think it definitely goes away. It doesn't have to be the highest of energy, but just to be passionate about what you do. And, you have a reason why you're there and that you care for, the kids of the program.
Absolutely, no question about that. Before I move on to talk about your career, I noticed that you guys were also a junior Knicks affiliate. And talk about that and what that entails for those that are listening and watching and say, you know what, wow, I didn't know that about Level Up, and maybe how important that is, and maybe that inspires people to kind of check you guys out further, and maybe for kids out there who want to play the game, get involved with you guys. I mean, both of you maybe talk about that.
Yeah, it was a big deal for us. They reached out to us and, they wanted us to be an affiliate of the Junior Knicks. And that's obviously a big deal when you're associated with the New York Knicks. And
especially these days, they're finally winning.
That's for sure. We've had teams that have, had the opportunity to play at halftime of some MSG games, which has been pretty incredible. We've had some former Knicks that have came down and ran clinics with us. So it just furthers us as a program, and it gives us even more legitimacy that, we're doing things the right way, because I don't think that they would be, jumping on board with us or any other program if they didn't think so.
No question about that. And Brad, obviously, we spoke about when you were down there at halftime there, about 6 weeks ago, something like that, about 5-6 weeks ago, right before the end of the St. John's women's basketball season. And I mean, for you, just talk about what that entails for the general audience. I know we spoke about it on the Friday shows, but people that might be listening to this and kind of hearing this for the first time, talk about for you what that means and such.
Yeah, I think it's just great for the program. As Jesse said, it's just another example of why we are what we are. You have people like the Junior Knicks looking at us and wanting to be affiliated with us. And again, that just says a lot about what we are as a program. But again, it's just a great opportunity for the kids to be able to, as Jesse said, get to learn from former Knicks players, get to go to a game and play at halftime. I mean, those are things that kids will remember for the rest of their lives. I mean, going to a game and playing on Madison Square Garden court, I wish I could have done that. I mean, but I remember my third grade kids had a world of the best time when they went to Madison Square Garden, and they'll never forget that. So, that's something that is important for our kids. It's not just about how they perform on the basketball court as players. It's also about that relationship that they build off the court, because in the end, some of my best friends still are players that I played AAU basketball with and off the court. And those are things that, like the Junior Knicks that we have, and, we use other things like the Hoop Lab, who do a great job with us, affiliated with us, working with us. So those things give the kids opportunity to meet more kids, to continue to, inspire them to play basketball. That's something that's important. And again, it's about the relationships. Yeah, we can talk about all the ins and outs. We talk about, what we're going to do on the court, what plays are running, blah, blah, blah. But in the end, when they have great relationships and they build those things as they go on, like kids are friendly from other towns too, that's something that's big. And I think that's one of the most important things when we talk about basketball, especially in our program, is the relationships that the kids build, obviously with their teammates, but with all the kids in the program and also their coaches. That's very important.
Let me ask you guys both this question, and especially for you, Coach Winter, because you're a few years ahead of the Brute Force. And did they have things like this when you guys were playing? And let's say if they didn't, would have made more of a difference in your career and such? I'm curious, especially for you, Coach Winter, because obviously you've been kind of in the game of basketball a little longer than the Brute Force. So I'm curious if they had that, let's say, back in 15, 20 years ago when you were coming up as a product of the basketball world on Long Island. And again, if this would have made a difference for you and such. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I played AAU basketball growing up. I just think the difference now compared to when I was coming up is there's more options. When I was coming up, there was 1, 2, 3 programs, and there wasn't really much thought. I stayed with the same program all the way through. Now, some players have the pick of the litter. It's like choosing a college almost. You want to go for what you think is the best fit for your kid. And, I think one thing that we offer is just a really great basketball network. And if it's for players that are trying to, play at that next level, whether it's middle school, high school, college, we just have an incredible network. And I think, also mentors and people that really care. So I think that is something that, I definitely had the people that I leaned on and I went to, but I'm talking about from a young age, and we're starting these kids up as young as possible just to get them ready. And one thing I always say is just helping these players reach their full potential. That's really what it's about. Not everybody's going to make a middle school team. Not everybody's going to make a high school team, but helping them get to a level that they didn't know that they can get to, whether that's even just shooting around with their friends or playing 3-on-3 and being able to keep up. So I just think that, just having the right people, I think, I can't stress that enough. Building around people that you trust and are in it for the right reasons. I think that's what Level Up is. And I think I would have loved playing for Level Up when I was younger.
That's why I asked, because I was like, what? I mean, you were a great player in your own right. I would just imagine what something like this would have done. I mean, I know, Brad, obviously you're a little bit ahead here in terms of where we were in the progression from AUs, and I kind of thought that was the answer Coach was going to give me, but would have made a difference for you in your journey, Brad, if, let's say, you were a part of the Level Up organization, let's say 10 years ago as an example? I mean, would this have made a difference for you think?
Oh, absolutely. I think so because, like Jesse, I also played AAU basketball, and when I was growing up, there were a couple more options, and I definitely explored a few. But with that being said, the one thing that I think also differentiates Level Up, besides all the things that Jesse said, with the coaches and the networking, right, is also the opportunities that we allow, the options that we have. I mean, it's not just teams. We have clinics, we have camps, we have training, and again, like he said, all the coaches have a wealth of knowledge. And like I said as well, right, and Jesse just said, right, we have different levels of coaches here. We have some guys who will coach at, or have played at colleges, the Division I level, or like Division III, like myself and Jesse. We have coaches like myself who coach in high school, so we kind of know the level very well. We have other coaches that coach at college, other different. So we have basically all the coaches you need for all the different experiences, and we have a lot of different personalities as well. So that really allows a kid like, oh, well, I like this type of coach, or I like this type of way of learning, and one thing for me that was big is some people learn differently. Some people need some more clinics and camps before they get on a team. Some people need some more individual training to be able to take the next step. Everyone's a different learner. That's one thing that I've learned, especially as a JV coach now, is that it's not all about, teaching it one way. There's many different ways you could teach it. And there's many different options. And that's why Level Up is different than any other program, because we provide so many different options to learn and get better and ultimately compete on our teams, which are always competitive, and that's what's something special about our programs, that we have competitive teams and we have a lot of options to get better. And like Coach Kelly said, a lot of passionate coaches.
Amen to all of that. And that's why you want to follow the Level Up Long Island basketball programs on Instagram and Twitter at levelup_LI. We are very honored to be joined with the president and CEO of the company. He is Jesse Winter. Of course, Jesse was up until recently the all-time leading scorer for our Cortland Red Dragons men's basketball team. Went to the NCAA tournament and had the best season the program had in over a decade. Won a game in the NCAA tournament. Had a great career. Played professionally in Israel. Southside High School Hall of Fame FIBA trainer. The guy has literally done it all, and he's very modest to boot. And of course, join with us as well, one of Jesse's employees, the brute force Brad Weiss, who isn't too bad despite what some might say on Sportswire Radio. 27th all-time in SJLI Golden Eagles men's basketball history and rebounds. Near the top of the list all-time in school history and block shots. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. I'm the man behind Sportswire Radio. And if you like what you hear from us, continue to give us a like and follow on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. Almost 600 followers. Really appreciate the support. Also, YouTube. A lot of new subscribers over the past week or so, because apparently I hear professional wrestlers have been wanting to give advice to a Level Up person, James D. Simone, on how to get on the brute force Brad Weiss and beat him up. And certainly you're on YouTube there at Sportswire. That was funny, Brad. And the wrestler himself was like, I got to look up this Brad Weiss guy. And he looked him up and he said, he's big. He's like, okay, well, maybe I have to rethink my plans on that. But here nor there, obviously, do continue to like us on YouTube at Sportswire Radio, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You You can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/player. And I'm back with more coverage for basketball coming up here this Sunday, also 8:30 p.m. with Eric Kotovsky, also from Israel. And he is now playing JUCO basketball in the state of Minnesota. Really, really excited to speak with him. And Tuesday, Brad, a guy I used to square off with from York College, 1,000-point scorer, Mr. Divine Chisholm. And I loved watching Divine, actually, and one of the few players I enjoyed outside of John Jay College in those CUNY games. I'm looking forward to speaking with Divine now that his career is over. So stay tuned for that. It'll be Tuesday, 9:30, but Eric will be with us 8:30 Sunday. But in the meantime, we are here with Mr. Winter Fresh himself, Jesse Winter. And Jesse, I got to talk to you about Southside High School, and you're in the Hall of Fame. They had a decorated run, which kind of led to where we are today. And just talk about some of those memories there, playing high school basketball for Southside, which led you to some of the highest highs that anybody can go in the world of basketball.
Yeah, I was fortunate to play for great coaches at Southside High School, and I'm actually still involved in helping them out right now. When I go, they actually won the Long Island Championship this season, which was something that I was very proud of, and something that I was really pulling for my coach, Coach Jerry D'Angelo, to win. So no, he and that program shaped me to the person that I was. I was a cocky kid growing up. I thought I had it all figured out. And sometimes you guys need something that will keep you on the straight and narrow. And I think that's what basketball was for me. And I put in a lot of time. I put in a lot of time on the basketball court, and that's really what kept me focused to wanting to do well in school. And I had a nice career at Southside, and I look back on a lot of memories, and I'm proud of it. And I've just played for great coaches, and I've had great mentors. So through there into college, just fortunate to have the experience that I've had, and to grow up in a town that's so supportive and loves basketball the way I do is something that I always enjoyed as well.
How much were you influenced by your coaches and Coach D'Angelo and kind of what you're doing these? I know at the moment in high school, nobody thinks, hey, I'm going to be influenced by my coach. And, I just, whatever coach said. I mean, how much were you influenced by those experiences?
A lot, because you get coaches that are motivating you to just be your best. I mean, it sounds corny, but he was checking up on me in school. It wasn't just me on the basketball court. So if your grades aren't cutting it, you're not playing. So, to have somebody that cares about you. And for me, that coach as well, when I was going into college, he was checking in on me every couple of weeks. And I think that really goes a long way of what a true basketball coach is. And that's why I've learned a lot from him. And I try to be the same way with my players. And, so basketball is more than just an orange basketball going into a rim. It's something that keeps kids off the street and keeps them focused on, on their journey and reaching whatever it is they're trying to achieve. So I was fortunate that I had that, and it helped me have a great, basketball career, and, just life in general. I'm very thankful and blessed for how things have played out in my life.
Absolutely, no question about that. And usually those in school, when I was in school, they were keeping track of me as long as I was in class. They were basically trying to make sure I stayed in class, because otherwise, if I stayed out of class, I probably wouldn't be here. But that's here nor there. I want to give a shout out to actually somebody that's tuned in here, also from the state of California, Mr. Darrow Johnson. And he also says, Mr. Tom Bryce, a good friend of mine's, Sportswire Radio is number one. Are we referring to Tom Bryce in the third person right now? But I certainly appreciate the kind words for us here. And Darrow, of course, is the owner and promoter of the Wrestling Warzone Connection. So thank you, Darrow, for your support and friendship. And Anthony Finkel, who I think is out there in the state of Florida, just closed on his new house. Congratulations to him on his new home in Cape Coral, Florida. Says level up top tier basketball journey only if the brute force pick games as good as he coaches. We all went this ball, so I'm going to plead the fifth on asking him some of those things. But I do want to congratulate Anthony Finkel on becoming a homeowner.
Hold on, I gotta say this because I gotta lead this into tomorrow. Is Anthony Finkel bringing out his own John Gonzalez right now? Because that sounds like a John Gonzalez type comment, not an Anthony Finkel comment. I mean, that's crazy.
Well, you know what? Some people are like, I'm home. You know what it is? Some people now, I'm a homeowner. I got this. I got that. I'm in Florida. I'm not here in New York, and life is great. Whereas, you're here. It's the hustle and bustle. It's the grind. And everybody feels differently. People feel comfortable when they're on solid ground. That's all I could say. Listen, I don't know, but I do know that Level Up is a top tier basketball journey, regardless of how the Brute Force picks his things. And I want to thank, obviously, Anthony for his support and Darrow's support. But speaking of things, when it came to Cortland, and obviously the Red Dragons, you mentioned a coach that I'm sure definitely influenced you. And everybody has been talking about him because the basketball world is kind of maybe not in some ways surprised, but still it's a big news nonetheless. We'll get to that in a second. But obviously, Coach Tom Spanbauer. And Coach Tom Spanbauer, obviously, when you think about basketball in upstate New York, he is kind of like the guy up there. I mean, obviously, what a career. And certainly you were a huge part of that. And I mean, talk about what led you to go to Cortland and obviously Coach Spanbauer and kind of the influence that he had on your career.
Yeah, I was looking to go to a school where I could have an impact right away. I was getting looked at by a lot of schools, a lot of Division III schools, few Division II schools. But he spoke to me about potentially coming in and having an opportunity. And if I did what I needed to do going into my freshman year, I would be able to take advantage of that. So, he was very upfront and honest with me. And, he was a coach that definitely knew how to push people's buttons. I'll say that. He had his ways, and we talk about coaches having different styles. And I think actually one of the best things that he did for me is my freshman year, I started and I had a nice freshman campaign. My sophomore year, we were having a down year, and, I was one of the main players on the team, and he actually put me to the bench a couple games into the season. And, that was something that I wasn't expecting. And he ended up, pushing the right button because it made me work as hard as I possibly could. And that season as a sophomore, I had 8 20-plus point games, and that was coming off the bench. And
wow,
we actually made the playoffs when people were writing us off early. So the fact that he got the best out of me, and I made sure that, my junior and senior year, he wouldn't have me coming off the bench. But sometimes you don't understand coaches' decisions in the moment, but, in the bigger picture, if the coach knows basketball and you have a good relationship and you trust them, they're always going to look out for your best interest. And that's what he was doing for me.
Absolutely no question about that. And how did that maybe shape you? Because, you were a big time player the freshman year. This is a program that's had a lot of success. And then you kind of hit this wall there. Maybe not so much from your individual stats, but at least maybe from a team's point where it led coach to make this shakeup. And maybe in the long run, it maybe was the best for you that could have ever happened. I mean, kind of talk about that experience, maybe in a way that might have shaped you maybe more than any other situations you were in. I mean, just maybe talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's obstacles that you're going to face both on and off the basketball court. And that was a first for me where I was coming off the bench, after having this conversation that I was going to start as a freshman and hopefully start all 4 years. So it was definitely dealing with adversity, and it gave me something more to prove. And one thing about me is I had a chip on my shoulder, and I loved having something to prove. And I loved having to show people that I deserved to be in that spot. And, I think that's important for somebody that's trying to get the best out of yourself as a player, is pushing yourself. And I think it was almost like a Mamba mentality of like, no, this isn't happening to me. I've put in way too much time. I've invested too much into my basketball playing career that, this isn't going to happen. And I think that translates to now. I feel like I'm still one of the hardest workers on and off the basketball court. And it really teaches you about motivation. Also teaches you that, no one's bigger than the team. That's one thing that I've learned a lot. Like we talk about me running Level Up. I'm not bigger than Level Up. I'm not. And, I want to do it with the team atmosphere. And it really made me appreciate my teammates, the ones that helped pick me up and help motivate me. And, we ended up winning the conference championship and getting to the NCAA tournament. So, like I said, it was a button that was pushed that, I look back on, and, I sometimes use when I'm talking to my players of, use this, have that chip on your shoulder. And, some people go the opposite way. They get something like that, and, it's not for them. For me, it was something that I didn't shy away from. And I hope that players are the same type of way when something doesn't go their way.
Absolutely. And for you, the Brute Force, I actually have a comment from the wrestler that actually had we addressed about you, and that was Mr. Sean Jovi, the resident rock star. We were asking about James D. Simone for help to kind of, because you were bullying him, apparently. That was kind of the running joke. And he actually said, I finally now understand the comment about the Brute Force when I was on the other day, because he looks at you and your size now. because we were trying to like go over the tape by tape, kind of like your size, your strength and such. And now that Sean Joby, the resident rock star, understands why how big you are and such. But obviously he tunes in, and we thank him for his support and such. And before I talk about obviously some of the awards you won, I was curious about the NCAA tournament. We've had a lot of guys on that come on, they talk about that experience, but you actually won a game in the tournament. You had success. And I think that's kind of an interesting thing to talk about, because I've had a lot of guys that have played at this level, and they've been to the tournament, and they go there and say, well, they lose by 40 or 50 points and you have to win the rest. No, you actually won a game in that tournament. You guys had some really big moments there on behalf of a program that's had some moments, but up until that time, especially senior year, hadn't won what you guys had won, especially even winning a game in the NCAA tournament. So kind of talk to me about those memories of being in the NCAA tournament, especially winning a game there. Because again, that's a really, really important feat to kind of have on your resume there.
Yeah, one thing people forget about when you get into March Madness is it just makes the season longer. So it takes a lot of mental toughness to make sure that, you're ready for it. And that was a goal that we set forth as a team, and that I had set forth as an individual. And, it was unbelievable to attain it. And, to get out, to have not only have an NCAA game, to have an NCAA game at home. So, the gym was packed, and the atmosphere is not something that you can duplicate. And, it's just an unbelievable feeling that all the work that you put in, especially it happening my senior year, it kind of justifies that all the work was really worth it. And, that second round loss, it was a tight game. It was a single digit loss. We played one of the top teams who I believe ended up making it to the Sweet 16, which was a NESCAC team. And, the teams that make it to that point are there for a reason. Even if you're a Cinderella team or if it's an upset, it's not luck. I'll tell you that. These teams are there for a reason, and they have the coaches and they have the players to get them there. And one thing that I'll never forget, after that game that we lost in the second round, they had a scouting report on all the players on our team, and they had 3 pages on me alone. I'm not talking about
if it was Brad, they would have had just 3 words on Brad. You had 3 pages.
Yeah, 3 pages, and come on, don't do that to Brad. Brad
was actually a good player at St. Joe's.
No, I know we still play together. Yeah, Brad.
We're gonna get to that. Don't worry, we're gonna get to that.
Yeah,
coming soon.
So it was 3 pages, and it was like I was just shocked. It was Division I type of scouting report where they had every aspect of my game. I actually think about it from time to time. I really wish that I saved it, because what they were saying about my all-around game was impressive, and it was spot on. And I think that's one thing that people may not realize is how much goes into these scouting reports. I know Brad, as a JV coach, he puts a lot of time in that, but you know what move as a coach, what move the player is going to do before you even do it. And but overall, it was an unbelievable experience. And I'm thankful that I got to have that.
Yeah, it was so fascinating because what you did, and we'll talk about in a second. I mean, you were almost a 50% shooter from the field, 40% from 3, 80% from the line. And we cover obviously a lot with St. Joe's and Five Towns College as well. And if some of these guys shoot 70% from the line, you're like, wow, they're the best shooter on the team, except Gordon Scheuer. Gordon was like you, about 80% from the line last season. But that's such a hard feat to be able to do. And I almost have to ask as a follow-up, because you guys do win that game, but you lose a heartbreaker. I think it was by 4 points, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. And I mean, do you reflect a lot on, let's say, the win and the loss? Because I've had some of the St. Joe's guys on after they had made the tournament a couple of different times. And I remember asking the guys, I was like, well, did you think about those games? Because like you, they had lost 2 close games the 2 times that those classmen had been in the NCAA tournament. And for you, do you still think about those games, or you guys talk about it with teammates? I mean, just give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's always memories. You're always looking back at the wins and the losses. But one thing for me about that game and just my basketball career as a whole, talk about it with the kids, is that I've left everything out there. And I'm not looking to be cliche, but I look myself in the mirror after a long career, and I'm like, wow, you did everything you possibly could have done. And that's why when I talk to kids that I coach and I mentor, I try to tell them, like, I can't feel bad for you if you don't put in the time. But if you put in the time and you come up short, at least at that point you could be, a little bit disappointed, but you gave everything you had to give. So when I look back on my career, high school, college, professional, I gave everything that I had to give. And I know, thankfully for me, I genuinely feel like I reached my potential. And, the awards and the accolades are great, but, the team success and, to have it all, like, and to look back on it, there's a lot to be proud of. So it's not like I'm sitting back here like, man, I want to lace them up and, I want to 4-year.
Well, you've done a lot since, to be fair. There's a lot of people that play, and Brad can attest to this, and we'll bring Brad in a couple of minutes. I mean, you play D3 basketball and your career is over. You go out and play professional. We'll get to that for a few minutes. You're obviously involved as a trainer, a FIBA licensed trainer. That's a massive accomplishment as well. You've got the organization. So, maybe it's different with you versus, let's say, a lot of the other guys that I have interviewed that might be guys who played in the NCAA tournament. That was their last game. This wasn't the last game of your career. So it might be from a different standpoint. You feel differently than somebody else. So I'll definitely give you that. But in terms of all those different accomplishments in Cortland, where you're D3 hoops, NABC, and Metro Riders, and 81% from the free throw line. You're nationally this, nationally that. You have all these accomplishments, and leave aside to the fact you're the program's all-time leading scorer up until a couple of months ago. I mean, did that stuff at the moment mean anything to you? Does it mean anything now? I mean, you did win a litany of accomplishments that very few people at any level win. I mean, what did that mean to you in your career?
It does mean something to me. And I think
I'm glad you said that. I'm actually glad you said that.
Some people answer that question. They're like, no, it's about the team. It's about this. Look, I agree. It is about the team, but there's a difference. The difference it's between individual goals and there's team goals. So one of my individual goals is that I want to be the all-time leading scorer, that I wanted to be an All-American, that I wanted to win the Player of the Year. I came up short in my conference. But to me, they go hand in hand. If I was doing what I had to do in my individual accomplishments, it's going to lead to team success. And, it was, what I'll tell you is I was the type of player that I wasn't trying to force stuff. I was a point guard. I think that's something that I take pride of is, I was all-time leading scorer up until recently. I held it for 10 years as the point guard. So I was actually number 2 in assists. So it's not like I was shooting the ball every single time down the court. So I was letting the game come to me within the flow of the offense, but individual awards meant something to me. And, I lost the record recently, but, I lost to somebody that was.
Oh, I mean, a guy that we spoke about on the show. I mean, Brad and I, we had Coach Fitzpatrick on, and we spoke about that guy. So if you're going to lose it to anybody, I'm losing it to Austin Grunder, because that dude's probably going to continue his career like you did. And I think also what made your career a little bit more special is that you guys did have the team success. Obviously, winning the SUNYAC the first time since 2000, 24 wins. And I mean, you've had some good teams at Cortland. So the fact that you guys did all these things, winning a game at home in the NCAA tournament. So I think in a way, maybe it made those numbers so impressive. And again, I mean, almost 50% from the field goals. Free throw percentage was 81+%, 40% from 3. I mean, your numbers were just through the roof there. And I mean, just so special stuff. And I mean, I do have to ask you then. So when you become the all-time leading scorer, what was your expectations? Were you surprised you held it this long? I mean, what was that like for how long you held the title for all-time leading scorer?
It was a good feeling. And I feel like it was part of my identity for a little bit. But then you start to build a new part of your identity. And when I lost the scoring record, people were calling me and texting me I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm like, the dude that I lost it to is a bucket getter and he deserves it. And by the way, super humble guy. So
yeah, we spoke about him a few times on the air.
Yeah, I couldn't want anybody to win it outside of him. So he was very well deserving. But it's okay. There's other things that I want to accomplish that's not just on the basketball court. From a basketball side of things, I'll always be able to say that I was the all-time leading scorer when I graduated SUNY Cortland. So that's something I'll be able to hold.
Hey, you know what? You held it like we said for almost 10 years. That's very impressive, especially I think in a program like Cortland, which has had a lot of success. This is not a program that's just had 1 or 2 appearances here and there in the ECAC or the NCAA tournament. Listen, you guys win every year, 15+ games. In Cortland, it's almost like death taxes and being in the SUNYAC playoffs, winning in 15+ games, 20 games in many years. So I think at the end of the day, that stuff certainly, almost in what you did, I think it really is a cool note and such. And I mean, I did have to talk also before I come back to Brad about playing professionally and what that was like. I mean, I've had some guys on that have done it and played professionally, and I think you going to Israel had to maybe mean more than anything else, or more to any than for you than anyone else, because you actually are Jewish. So the fact to be able to go out there and play and kind of represent your nationality and your family and everyone else, what was that experience like playing in Israel?
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, I was being that I was Jewish, I am Jewish, I'm able to have citizen over there. So it's me competing against Israelis and not necessarily against other Americans that are trying to play over there. So these teams, they have a certain amount of players that they could have on each team. The second division, which I was in, they're able to have 2 Americans on the court at one time. In the first division, you're able to have 3 Americans on the court at one time. So the fact that I was able to, compete as an Israeli, it helped even the playing field for me because I'm realistic. I'm not 6'8". I'm not flying through the air. I know where I stood, but one thing going over there is you don't sleep on these Israeli basketball players because they play a very unique style of basketball. They move the ball, they get smart shots, they can shoot the ball. And it's a different game. So it was definitely an adjustment over there, but I had family over there. It's a beautiful country. The only challenging part for me was being 7 hours away.
I was going to say the time difference had to have been an issue.
That was definitely a little bit difficult. And also being alone in a separate country is a little bit different. But, overall, it was a positive experience. And I haven't been back since, but definitely one day I hope to maybe run camps or some type of training there, as I further my career.
No question about that. And I had to come back then to Cortland because obviously we touched upon at the top. This is where I'm going to bring the brute force, Brad Weiss. And obviously we heard about the news about Coach Tom Spanbauer obviously is no longer going to coach the team. He's still coaching the tennis team. So if you want your tennis lessons and tennis help, Coach is still there for that. But obviously Coach is no longer to be coaching the basketball team. Again, congratulations. What a run for Coach. I mean, he has done just so many great things. And you think about what he is. He is that school. He is that program. Very similar to what we used to say about John Matejko here for our Golden Eagles, Brad, at SJLI Long Island. But Coach Winter, I was wondering what you thought possibly, maybe not for you so much, but if the brute force Brad Weiss would have put his hat in the ring maybe for the job there at SUNY Corp. I know one of his best friends is Brendan Fitzpatrick, and your old teammate Mo Kearney, which we'll certainly ask about in a second. Mo has certainly been somebody we love here on Sportswire. Spoke about him a number of different times. But do you think that the brute force should kind of leave his day job here at Level Up? Do you think maybe he should put his hat in the ring and put his resume out there to interview for the job there at Cortland? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Are you crazy? Brad's coaching 5 teams for Level Up. Don't even put that thought in his mind. Don't even. But no, Brad knows his stuff, and I give there's stuff that I can learn from Brad as a coach as well because he puts in a lot of time, not just on the court but off the court, and he studies the game and he cares about the game. So. That you'd have to ask Brad that question if that's something that he'd want.
Well, we kind of did. And I thought it'd always be fun to kind of play around with this. Obviously, we know Coach Fitzpatrick will probably be back on one of these days. We tried to get him on this weekend, but we've obviously had some scheduling stuff between our camps. Well, noticeably his camp because he's a big deal these days. But Brad, do you sure that, after what you heard from Coach Winter, do you want to change your mind, put your hat in the ring? I mean, what's your thoughts on it?
No, listen, I've said this already. First of all, the weather today was great, and I don't really like the cold weather up there in Cortland. So that's the first thing. Also, we all know, from my experiences, I'm a family guy. I like to be home. I went to St. Joe's for a reason, so that wouldn't be thing. But mainly because, listen, my guy's Brendan. I ain't stepping on his shoes and interviewing for something that I would rather him have the job. He's a Cortland alum and a great point guard in his own right. Had a great career.
Very good career at Cortland. Very good career.
Not Jesse Winter, but he was certainly a great player there. So I would have be rooting for him. Hopefully to potentially get that job. But you mentioned Mo. That guy's awesome. I mean, I know Jesse's going to speak to him more, but Mo's the man. I really hope that he gets that job. He put the time in there as well. As an assistant. So I'm hoping and I'm rooting for him to get that job. And Coach Fitz, obviously, I couldn't be prouder of him as a former teammate, as a guy who kind of tried to mentor him, when I was older than him for, by a year. So I tried to mentor him when it came to leadership and the way that he approached it. But again, he's doing a fantastic job up there. And I think him and Mo are a very great duo for this Cortland program going forward. And I'm hoping that's what happens. And again, I don't want to step on their toes. I love my jobs. I love Level Up. Plainview treats me very well. So I will keep that at the current moment.
All right, fair enough. I'll give you the weather because I do think up there, upstate, it gets bad here, certainly downstate, but upstate, coach, I don't know how you did it up there for all those years, especially those winters. And there was some tough winters, I think, about 2010, 2011, where it was some really, really bad snowstorms, even here downstate. I can only imagine upstate. But I did want to ask you on, obviously, your old teammate Mo Kearney, Coach Kearney, doing a great job there. Coach has been one of our favorites on Sportswire. I mean, do you have a preference? Would you love to see him get the job? And maybe what was he like as a teammate? And are you surprised at kind of what he's done under Coach Spanbauer for the past few years there?
I am. He put in his time, and he deserves it. I put Nicole to the athletic director. I called him myself, and I said,
Wow.
This is somebody that you need to give the job to. And
Okay.
whether he takes it or leaves it, that's on him. But I had to throw my hat in the ring for him as a Cortland basketball alumni.
Wow.
He's somebody that's he's a professional, and talk about passion. He's somebody that's very into the game, and he's putting the time. You put in the time, and I think nowadays it's more important than ever that you're a player's coach, and that's really what he is. He knows how to connect to the players, and I know there was a couple kids from the current team that sent him text messages and wanted him to potentially get that job. So I'm definitely rooting for him. If Brendan Fitzpatrick or any other guys, I just want it to be the right fit for the program because it has done a lot for me, and I want it to be somebody that can connect to the alumni base and somebody that's going to continue the Cortland tradition. So whether it's Mo or whether it's somebody else, just somebody that fits that mold.
Absolutely, no question about that. And obviously, we have a very good feeling whoever takes over the reins there, I think they'll have a lot of success. And I could ask you some more questions, Coach, but I actually want to take this opportunity to give the brute force Brad Weiss the floor while we have some time. And I think this is the part where I'm actually really curious to hear what happens because, Brad, I want to give you the chance to ask Coach Winter some questions. Hopefully, don't be too hard on your boss, unlike Matt Hurd and Gordon Schroyer. We don't know if they're coming back after that. So certainly we can only hope the brute force. But, I mean, for those that are listening and watching, and I'm even more curious on what would you like to ask Coach Winter now that you have him here with us live?
Well, we always know that I got interesting questions, but I will say my questions aren't too bad today, Jesse. So the first one is a pretty interesting one. I kind of want to hear your thoughts on this. All right. Number 12. That kind of seemed to be your number. So I wanted to ask you why number 12 and maybe who was that influence potentially to wear that number?
The honest answer is that I was number 5 in high school for Jason Kidd. They didn't have number 5 in college. And I was looking at the numbers. I always wanted a low number. And 12, I was like, I'm a point guard. Who's somebody with 12? Steve Nash was who I looked up to. There was no 13. So 12, I'm like, all right, I'll go with this, John Stockton. So, 12 has been my number. And, as you know, Brad, I'm a gritty point guard that plays the game hard. So, I'm not saying I was emulating my game after John Stockton, but
I think you scored a little more than him, actually. I mean, when
he was a hard-nosed player that was
true.
Some people think I'm the same.
All right.
Yeah.
That's
well, yeah, and I'm going to get to that in a second. I want to get to that in a minute, but I want to go back a little bit on something that we kind of talked about because I think this is a really interesting thing, Jess. We didn't really particularly touch on this, and we obviously talked about how Level Up became a thing. But I want you to really take it from when you first, obviously, when it went from advertising to Level Up and how the progressions went, because we spoke to Matt Hurd, and it's actually really funny how you guys kind of align in your stories where, it kind of came from a little, team that you guys picked up to a big program. So for our listeners, and I think a lot of people will be interested to hear your story because I know I have, about how you built the program from after, obviously, college and going overseas and how that kind of built and the progressions it built into.
Yeah, I won't get too long in detail because it's really a long story, but I will say that basketball has always been a part of my DNA, and I was doing training and I was doing coaching on the side, and it really wasn't even my idea to start an AAU program. It really wasn't. I thought I was going to stay with advertising or I was going to be in account management and I was going to find my way living in New York City, working in New York City. It just kind of came out and it was almost like a thing that's meant to be. So, even though I almost stepped away from the game a little bit as far as, going into a full-time job that was outside of basketball, it always found a way to draw me back. So, really the story is that I was doing it on the side and, we picked up some great momentum. I was able to coach a couple teams and, the kids and the parents really adored my style and how I was going about it. And one thing led to the other that there was more parents that wanted to do it. And next thing I know, I'm working a full-time job in New York City and I have 5 teams and there's expectations to put in tournaments and leagues and this and that. And it got to the point where it was like, I need to make this switch where let's see how this goes. And I felt like I was from a standpoint where it made sense. And I have no regrets on that move. I can tell you that.
Oh, for sure. And it's obvious with the way you obviously approach the program and how much you care about the program. So that's very obvious. But I now want to, go to the program again and kind of touch on a few different things. So number one, all right, we will mention him in a minute, but I want to talk more about the team that you coach with my good buddy, James DeSimone. Obviously, you've coached some really great teams, Jesse, but I want you to touch on those 2 teams specifically that got to compete in Florida for the AAU National Championship and what that experience was like. Again, another thing you've spoken to me about a little bit, but I think people would be interested about what type of experience that's been. And also, while you're talking about that, also add some of the teams that you've really had the pleasure to coach and kind of talk about some players as well you got to coach.
Yeah, I mean, when you start the program from scratch, I try to remind some friends that are getting into the AAU basketball world. It doesn't happen all at once. And my teams and the program's teams have had success, but it doesn't happen overnight. So, we weren't going to AAU nationals off the first year. We weren't going off the second year. It was really building it up and making sure you have the teams that can go there and compete, because blowouts aren't fun on either way. You don't want to win a huge blowout. You don't want to lose a big blowout. So I've been fortunate that I took a few teams to, AAU nationals. I went with a team that was in 10th grade and we came in 5th place, which was really unbelievable in Division II nationals. And then, last year we actually won the Division II nationals, and that was an unbelievable experience because, it's one thing to win it, but it's the kids that I won it with were kids that I started with in 2nd grade. And then I still coach some of them right now in 6th grade. So it's really developing and building habits from the early age that, I really preach. And I think people that know the teams and where they come from and know the players, it's, we're doing things that we feel is right and we're building it up our way. So to not only win, but to win with that cast of kids that I built it up with, it was, a phenomenal feeling. And now, our teams as a program are no longer, we have local teams, we have regional teams, and we have national teams. But, 6 years ago, I wouldn't have imagined that we would be at this point where we have national teams that are competing at a high level. And, I always wanted to have college basketball players that we can, that we help take through. And that's something that I look forward to continuing to get, especially, we start at that young age. So these younger kids that we've been building up, I think you're going to start to see a lot of college basketball players that come throughout level up. And, that's something that we take pride in.
Absolutely. And one of those guys, I gotta go to it now. I have to, all right, because this guy I know is listening. I know I've been working with him all week. I actually just got this in the mail. All right.
Wow.
Shirt. All right. I'll be wearing at camp tomorrow. That's James DeSimone. Obviously my guy, level up kid who came in, obviously was on one of those teams that went to nationals, works with us in the program. I know he's going to be listening. So you got to mention a James DeSimone comment, what type of player he is, what type of leader he is. And again, just your thoughts on him as a whole, and his obviously going to Mr. Cordia, the announcement he made about a week ago.
Yeah, I'm happy for him. I mean, he's somebody that you talk about that's put in the time, and he's a shorter guy like me. So, Brad, not everybody could be your height. So
that's why he's trying to get advice from wrestlers about me.
A smaller guy's got to work out much harder. And, I remember the first time I had James in the gym. I had him with 2 6'5" kids, and the dad was like, "Yeah, he's a good player." Like, and I did like a training session. I was impressed with his skills, and I kind of threw him in the fire. I remember doing a King of the Court where it was 1 versus 1, and I was like, wow, this kid can really play. He doesn't back down. And I respected that. And, it was similar to my style as like, giving it everything you got. And, one moment I have is we're in the overtime game of that 5th grade, of that 5th place victory that we had at AAU Nationals. We had an unbelievable comeback. We ended up winning the game, but we had no business being in it. And we made an unbelievable comeback. And I remember off the tip-off, it was like a play that'll always, stay in my head, where we won the tip-off. One of our guys came running out of nowhere, saved the ball from out of bounds, got kicked up to one of our players, kicks it up to James, and James is getting the ball, dribbling one dribble over half court. And it was just one of those feelings and moments, you have it as a coach. I'm like, let it fly, let it fly. He must have pulled up, no joke. I mean, it was definitely NBA range. And, wow. I know he still has the clip and he knows which one I'm talking about. But, that was the type of player that James was. He's a knockdown shooter. He knows how to get to the paint. He It's definitely a good kid and a good role model for kids, and that's why we have him as a coach for Level Up already, helping out with you. And I look forward to his career at Miss Concordia. I know that he's going to be there for 4 years, and I know that he's going to be a future captain. But I also selfishly look forward to him coming back and being a coach for Level Up when he graduates.
Oh, absolutely. And again, just to piggyback off that, obviously, Jesse got to work with James before I did. But, he mentions the work ethic and just the time that James puts in. Yeah, he's not the tallest, but he's one of the hardest workers I ever gotten to coach. I meant that when I had that post a few weeks ago. So, and obviously, he also saw what we were about with Level Up and joined our program and trusted us. So we thank him as Level Up that he trusted us, and that obviously he's worked with Jesse, worked with me, worked with a lot of different coaches. And one of them, by the way, at the moment, I got to bring him up right now, because he is the boys director. That's Trevor Stark. He's his coach right now. Trevor obviously is a great coach. He's also a great guy. I saw him at the Met game a few days ago. But he's also has a very big role in this program, Jesse, and obviously means a lot to you. So I want you to talk about Trevor and what he means to our program.
Yeah, Trevor is my right-hand man. I mean, we have a lot of great coaches in the program, but it can't always come from me. And I always say it's a team effort, but a lot of these decisions, are on you, Brad. They're on the other coaches, but it's on Trevor. And the best thing about Trevor, he's just a good person. And I call him for life advice as a friend, and we're close friends. We're best friends. So that goes a long way. And it's me and him always joke about it, because sometimes I have to play bad cop, and he loves being good cop. So it kind of works out that sometimes I'm like, all right, Trevor, this is your call to take. You have to take this phone call. I'll take the next one. If you need me, I'll come in and and say what I need to say. But just different styles meshing together. I think that's what a team is about, and that's what I take pride in with him as a coach, but as again our staff as a whole.
Yeah, and by the way, I've been in those meetings, so I know that Trevor's the good cop. That's for sure. He wants to be. But again, he's just a great guy, and another guy who just, anything I need, any issues, he takes care of it. And again, he plays a huge influence, like Jesse said, kind of as his right-hand man. And it's pretty obvious how much he cares and how much he cares about the development of our teams and the program and how we're doing things as a program. So even the other day, he right away asking about how the camps are going this week. I mean, he really cares about, what we're doing. And speaking one of those kids that really care about our program, and obviously some great news recently, Jesse, is Thierry Smith. Obviously that big news that just came out. Talk about that and talk about him as a player. I know you've gotten to coach him, but this is obviously a monumental thing for our program with the news that just came out. So talk to our viewers about that.
Yeah, Thierry Smith is he's a 7th grader. He has 6th grade eligibility, so he has been playing on a national stage with us, and we have won a tournament this past weekend, and we've had an incredible amount of success. And that team is filled with superstars that I'm fortunate that I'm able to coach. But every team has that one guy that's a leader, and I joke with him all the time that he's given pregame talks better than I am at this point. He's a special talent, and he's getting the opportunity. And you don't see this often where, a school is offering a full scholarship for him to come. And this is for him, in middle school, for him to go to Cardinal Hayes. So, he just has a very bright future ahead of him. And, it's cool to have people to trust in us that, we're going to help put their kids in a good spot. And, that's a kid that I think is going to be a scholarship player, not just in high school, but in college. And hopefully he looks back to me for advice. And, I've just had the pleasure to coach him and a lot of really unbelievable players of all ages with Level Up.
Yeah, and like Jesse referenced earlier, I mean, all these young players that are building into these great players and building their resumes, I mean, it's just great to see because we have so much young talent. And the best thing about some of the young talent that we have is that they're really coachable kids. And, you don't see that all the time. Like, they're really coachable kids. They really care about the game. Obviously, they have great influencers with their parents. So to see a kid like Thierry and hear this news, obviously, and see how he plays and how hard he works, and like Jesse said, as a leader, that's a big thing for our program. So I want to give him a congratulations here on our show. But listen, I got to get to this right now. All right, Jess, I got to get to this.
I know where this is going.
Has to be in order for the 3-time men's league champions, our Level Up team, all right? And we got to talk about that. We got to take it step by step here. So first of all, for the team itself, what's led to the 3-time champion success? I know, obviously we have some really talented players. and Tom to make you smile. All right, I'm talented, but not up with them. So
all right, well, let's hear it because I want to hear this.
Talk about the guys that are playing the team and what that's meant to be. Kind of obviously, we've talked about how much chemistry we have as a group when it comes to talking, when it comes to coaching, but playing now as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great group of guys where we play at 10 o'clock on weeknight. So, we love being there. If we're getting out of there 11:30 at 11:45 on a weeknight, it just shows that we, how much we enjoy it. And, I always say too, it definitely goes somewhat far when you have coaches that played the game as well. So not only, are we talking the talk, but we're walking the walk. And I encourage our players to come check us out to show, that we still have it. And we're not just, coaching them just from out of space. We're coaching from experience. So it's a fun thing. And, the fact that we've won 3 championships is just the icing on the cake. And, Brad's selling himself short, but every team has its role, and Brad has a role that I definitely don't want to play, which is really dirty work and, finishing drop-off passes around the basket. And he's just a great teammate too. That also goes, that is part of any championship culture, because not everybody can be the 1, 2, 3 player on the team. It's somebody that knows how to buy into his role. And Brad is the ultimate team player, which is just as important as my role or anybody else's role on the team.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that comment. So, listen, it's a lot of fun when I go out there and play with these guys. I mean, obviously they're very talented. Jesse, by the way, looks like himself in college. I mean, he's one of the best players in the league.
He looks like he's
in the adult league,
in college almost.
Listen, I got to get to the other stuff though, Jess, because you said we talk the talk, and you can certainly talk on the court. When it comes to your mentality and how you play. So I want you to talk more about your play style, because it's very unique, by the way, very unique. Something that, I've seen from other players a little bit. Jesse kind of reminds me a little bit of like how Doug Niblock approached it a little bit. But I want to get it from Jesse because he has his own way of playing, which is really cool. So talk about your approach when it comes to, getting under people's skin and the way that you play.
Yeah, I mean, I know my game, and I know what works and I know what doesn't work. And some people find it annoying, and sometimes I'm annoyed with myself when I'm playing. I'll be honest. Sometimes I talk a little too much, and my teammates might, get a little upset with me. But I'm trying to get any edge, and if I can get an opposing teammate, an opposing team off their game because they're worried about, stopping me instead of just, trying to stop our team as a whole, I'm trying to get any advantage that I can. And I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I'm talking, it's not to really get under the other team's skin. It's really just to get myself going. Like I feed off of that. I love those type of, atmospheres. I love those conversations. And sometimes trash talking is fun to take a player's game and just seeing how it impacts them and them not being able to hit shots. And it's mind games. And that's why, basketball is more of just physical. It's mental as well. And I know what I do, and I feel like I do it well. And, Tom, I appreciate you saying that, I still look like I can play. The reality with me is I could never jump high. So, my game, I always say it to people, like, hopefully my game keeps translating until, I keep getting older into my 40s and 50s, because I don't have a game where I'm, jumping through the roof. I don't have a game where, I'm going 100 miles per hour down the court. I know how to use my speed. I know how to use my body, and I'm a high IQ player. So I try to use what I can. And that's what kids need to realize too, is that, you have to take advantage of your build. Everybody has their own God-given strengths. And I know mine. And sometimes it takes kids a little bit to figure out what their strengths and weaknesses are. But once you do, you can do some nice things.
Hey, listen, Udonis Hasselman had the best game he had in 15 years, and he's got to be 40, 41 at this point. And I mean, so listen, you never know. Listen, the way the game is, and if you play it the right way, you play it smart, like anything else. I mean, you can play and still have a long career out there, whether it's in men's leagues, whether it's on the street, whatever it might be. I mean, Udonis Hasselman, perfect example. I mean, probably scored more points in a game than he scored in the last 5 years, but you just can, never know. So, Brad, back to you then.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I got basically all my questions in for the moment. But I will say, by the way, to piggyback on what Jesse said in regards to the team when it comes to the men's league, again, it's one of those things where, again, we have a lot of great players, and we have guys like Jesse, right, that obviously could score at any time. But, it's cool to also play an unselfish way of basketball. And, Jesse talked to about it earlier where, he scored so many points, but he also was second in assists. And, that's something that, again, when I'm a coach, right, and I talk about this all the time when it comes to my level up teams or even my Plainview teams and, such, he talked about roles. Well, it's also about, listen, you have to realize what guys do besides score, right? And one of those things that I appreciate about Jesse and what he said is that he sees some of the other things that I bring to the table. If it's whether it's block shots or rebounds or dirty work or taking a charge, which I did actually. So those things matter. And it's one thing as a coach that I tell my guys all the time, because especially at these young ages, they're all thinking about, can I score? Can I do this? And there's other ways to impact the game. And that was obviously the way that I played. But that's something that I really try to teach when I'm coaching. And also, it's a cool thing that you could see when you watch us play is that we all kind of play our role. We all kind of play with each other. We're all able to make the next pass, set the right screen, cut at the right time. Those are things that matter as well. So, that's why what Jesse said earlier about, we hope that kids come down and watch us play. It's not because, we're cocky or anything. We want kids to watch us, Listen, I got James DeSimone showing up to games without a shirt on with my name on it,
Yeah, that was funny. I don't know if you caught that, Coach Wentz. Probably better if you didn't, but that
wasn't necessary. But what I'm saying is, that's something that, again, we truly believe in how we play. And again, I think that we all believe in, a certain way of playing. And I think we all kind of to go off each other's ideas. And I think that's a big thing, like I said, with our program and also with the way that we play on the court. And I think that's something that, again, is an enjoyable experience for me. And it's been enjoyable to play with Jesse, even in men's league, not growing up, but in a men's league, it's been great. So I really enjoyed that part. And the last nugget I want to say before I head it back to Tom, Jesse mentioned earlier about how I scout teams when it comes to high school. Well, I actually do that level up too sometimes. I actually very, very much, get my team ready for a team, specifically in the playoffs or in a championship game. I really enjoy that part of it. And I appreciate Jesse recognizing that, because I really do enjoy the part of, preparing and making sure that the guys are ready. And I'll do whatever it takes, right, to make sure my guys win and have smiles on their face. So on behalf of me as with Level Up, I really want to thank my teams and how much work they put in, because there's so many great kids out there that might be listening to us today that will to take these messages right and go with it. And I think that those kids really, I have a pleasure coaching. I really enjoy coaching those kids with Level Up. All 5 of those teams Jesse mentioned that I'm coaching right now.
It's amazing what you've done there. And before I get to closing thoughts here with Coach Wentz, I really want to thank him for the opportunity. And also if you like what you hear from everything about Level Up Long Island, please follow them on Instagram and Twitter at levelup_LI, where you can find out why this is really an organization that's not just about the game of basketball. It's about helping individuals become very, very successful in the game of life. So basketball is one thing, but what these guys and gals do is make our youth become successful at the game of life and successful at the future for tomorrow. And before I get to a few other questions, John Gonzalez of the Sports Authorities Group has tuned in and bizarrely asked you, the brute force. The hotel is cold. They still want their towels back. So if you have any towels there for the state of Florida, they want them back.
Let's just tell Jesse right now, because I know, listen, he tunes into the show, I for sure. But this guy, John Gonzalez, he's a professional at getting on my nerves. All right. He's crazy. Listen,
great job.
I talks about how he can get under people's skin. This guy, John Gonzalez, is the one that always tries to get on my skin. He's got a skill at it because he finds little nitbits to do it. So, John Gonzalez, first of all, we appreciate you tuning in. But listen, I already told you that I didn't take the towels. So I didn't take the towels, and the hotel still has the towels. So, John, get off my nerves right now.
All right, fair enough. And we do appreciate a lot of people tuned in. So I have a lot of people on YouTube that tuned in, Facebook that tuned in. So really appreciate it. Well, I think the last 5 or 6 shows I've been doing on Sportswire, getting a lot more new people. That's why I referenced the YouTube at Sportswire Radio also to go out and check us out, because a lot of new stuff. I actually put some new stuff out there also on YouTube. So I really appreciate the support. But, Coach, I wanted to ask you a couple of quick questions. I could ask you tons of questions, but I feel like I want to ask you a few more important questions, especially for Level Up. And what is the goals here going forward with Level Up? If there's anything we haven't covered, what are the goals here of the program?
It's no secrets. It's just being solid and just staying consistent year after year and just bringing a good product that I'm proud of, that the coaches are proud of. And, it'll be nice to accomplish some things and bring in stronger players and stronger teams. But, just AAU basketball and a lot of basketball or sports in general is a what have you done for me lately type of, sports.
Sure.
So, it's just about, keeping my head down and keeping all our coaches' head down and grinding and just doing things the best way we know how, and let the rest of it, take care of itself.
If there was one or two moments that stood out most so far with Level Up, what would they be? If you had one or two moments so far in the 6 years.
That's a great question. I mean, I would say probably has to be when we were at halftime of the Knicks game. We had one of our players I think they were in 5th grade at the time. They hit a 3, and they put up like this, and they did like a little bit of a dance. And this halftime of a Madison Square Garden Knicks game, and the crowd went nuts, and it actually went viral on House of Highlights and ESPN. So that was a big deal for us, and it's just fun. It's fun to see like these little wins where when you start this thing, you don't expect to have cool opportunities and moments like that. So I'll leave it with that one for tonight.
That's a good one. That is a good one, and I think that's a great one. And one of mine was most notable was Carmelo Anthony not too long ago came by. I thought that was a kind of cool thing for you guys. That was definitely a good thing. But everybody talks about Carmelo Anthony, and I was curious also. And before I get to one or two more questions before closing thoughts, and we appreciate the time that you've given us here. And what does it mean to you to be a licensed FIBA trainer?
Again, it's about legitimizing yourself, and I've learned from a lot of great people. The people that used to train me, the coaches that trained me growing up, they had a high basketball pedigree, and it just shows that I've put in a lot of work and I've put in a lot of time. So it's just like my playing career. I take a lot of pride in my coaching career as well, because it's not just me sitting behind a desk. It's me coaching kids, and it's me training kids. So to show that I know a thing or two, and I can, shed some light on our players that we have. I think that's a pretty cool thing. And the FIBA training thing is just another notch on the belt, and, something that's on the resume. But, there's a lot that I take pride in as a coach.
Absolutely. I think that's a really, really cool thing to note. And I wanted to ask you, conversely, now I know you've had a lot of moments in the game of basketball, obviously being the Southside High School Hall of Fame, all the accomplishments at Cortland, winning a game in the NCAA tournament, playing professionally in Israel. But I always like to ask this question to somebody like yourself that comes on here to Sportswire Radio. And was there one or two moments in your career that stood out most? It could be at any level. It could be at Southside, could be at Cortland, could be at Israel. I mean, is there one or two moments that stood out most in your career?
Yeah, I mean, there was one that was an individual moment. And there was one that was a team moment. So I'll just try to keep it brief. When I was a junior in high school, there wasn't high expectations for our team at Southside High School because we graduated a lot of seniors. We came back in that quarterfinal game from down 9 with less than 2 minutes left. And
wow.
They had an opportunity to ice the game on the free throw line to close it out, and they were actually up by 3 points. They're up by 3 points going to the line, shooting 2. They missed both. I get the outlet. I dribble down the court, and I hit some Hail Mary, double pump shot that I don't know. It ended up going in, and the place went nuts. And we ended up making it to the county championship, which was awesome. But that moment individually, I'd say that. And then as a team, I would say the Sudiac championship. I remember when we won that game, I put the basketball at center court, and that was kind of like, all the work that I've put in to win a championship, because I didn't really get the opportunity to when I was in high school as far as a county championship, all the work that I put in to finally get one my senior year and to be a Sudiac championship, and the fashion that we won it, that was, unbelievable. And also to share it with my teammates, because I had unbelievable friends and teammates up there that, it's one thing to experience it by yourself, but to experience with people that you love and that you went through the grind with was something special for me.
Yeah, and I think that before we get to closing thoughts here, and I thought that was a great one actually, because you think about, again, the program we spoke about. You guys have had a lot of success, but that was actually the first time you guys win the SUNYAC in over a decade. And you think about that team, 24 wins that season, and to be able to kind of cap it off the way you guys did and kind of propels you into the NCAA tournament. Again, that SUNYAC SUNYAC, we spoke about this here, Brad. We've had on Alan Duratovic. We've had on Coach Fitzpatrick, and that is a tough conference to win. That is not like some other conferences where it's basically like Mickey Mouse, where it's basically like, okay, well, you got 3 teams that are good and everybody else, it's like intramural CYO. But that's a very tough conference. Every game is tough. Those gyms are tough to play in. It's competitive basketball. A lot of guys you played against played professionally at some point or were very, very, really good players for their teams respectively. And that is a tough conference to win. And you guys have had a lot of success there and haven't always won that SUNYAC. So I thought that was a great one and kind of propelled the program. So I thought that was probably the best answer you could have had. My honorable mention was February 18, 2012, your career high 36 points against Buffalo State. The following year, you scored 35 points. So you had some really impressive moments. But I think winning the SUNYAC that year and winning an NCAA tournament game, going 24-5. I mean, think about it. How many teams go 24-5, especially in that conference? But that's,
I'll say this: I know how it feels to be the other way.
Well, I wasn't going to say. I mean,
I'm just saying. I could say. Well, you don't have to say.
I have to count, but I think you won 24 games at St. Joe's in 4
years. I hope so.
I think you did. I think you did because I think we won 10 games in conference the first year. I think we would have just got over the finish line with 24 wins.
24-5 sounds really nice. So
they were good. No, listen, but like I said, I think it's so impressive about what he did at Cortland with Coach Winter because they've had a lot of good teams, but didn't always win their conference tournament. They did that, and then on top of that, win an NCAA tournament game, which I thought was so special about that team because he played with some other great players, but on top of that, they didn't just go into the NCAA tournament and go in there and get patsied by 50. No, they went in there, win their game, blow out, and the next game, we're in a neck-and-neck game, and arguably could have won. We've had a lot of people on from Sportzwire that have played in the NCAA tournament, and most of them don't have those feelings and those moments like Coach Winter did. That is why we were very honored to have him on here tonight for all the great things that he does on and off the court, especially now with our Level Up Long Island basketball organization. I want to thank John Gonzalez, who tuned in, said he'll see everybody tomorrow night, saves his comments for Friday night for you, Brad, but that'll be certainly for tomorrow night's show. But I want to go with closing thoughts first. I'm going to go with you, Brad, because obviously I want to give you the opportunity to say anything else you want to plug, promote, share, anything else you want to say to Coach Winter, your boss. If you want to ask for a pay raise, this is your opportunity to do it live. And anything else you might want to get off your chest before Coach Winter might change his mind. But I turn over to you at this point. You know the drill, and I'm going to let you say your closing thoughts because I'm going to crack up if I don't say it. Maybe I should do it.
Well, all right. Well, Tom, thank you obviously for having us on tonight. Jesse, thank you for coming. I know it took us some time to get this to happen, but we made it happen, and I'm really excited not only for our show, obviously, because this is a big deal for us, but obviously for our program and everybody that's going to be listening, and obviously learning some good things and having to hear your story, Jesse, as well as some of the things that we had to say tonight. So thank you for coming on the show, and again, it's one that I'll definitely never forget. You can follow me on social media, Facebook, Bradley Weiss, Twitter at BradWeiss20, and on Instagram at Coach Brad Weiss or at BWeiss20. I'm there, so make sure you give me a follow. Certainly when it comes to Level Up, I'll just say it one last time, right? It's truly a family feel. I mean, you could just see from the picture that I posted today and how many pictures I put together in the new collage I have here to the right. It's just so many great moments, and you just mentioned them, Tom, and I could go all over the place, whether it was in a winning season or a losing season. There's so many great moments because the kids that you get to work with, right, the coaches you get to be with. I mean, again, wins and losses are great. We all want to win, okay, but just to be a part of it. And one of the best things, too, that I didn't mention earlier, Tom, is just the relationships you build with these players. Like a James D. Simone, who we talked about earlier, it's been truly amazing to just build a friendship and a bond with a kid like that. And some of the kids I've got the honor to coach and train, just to see how much they really appreciate what we do and, how it goes back the other way as well, how much we appreciate, how much they work for us. I've had teams like a kid, I'll mention another kid I'm sure will tune in, like a Jake Greenberg, was playing for me.
I've mentioned his name before, Jake Greenberg.
Multiple seasons, and, just the amount of, the amount of thank yous and the amount of how much he really appreciates the time that we put in and how much we care as a program for his development. It means a lot to me, and that's just not him. It's just one example. But again, that's really the true beauty of this program. And I can't thank Jesse enough for obviously allowing me to be a part of it. And again, did I have Jesse's resume? No. Did I have maybe the most success ever? No. But, the one thing that I think I really appreciate with Jesse is that he really saw my passion and how much I wanted to coach and how much I really cared about it. And I think that, the best way for me to give it back to him is by just bringing that every single day to whatever I do. And I think that, again, we can talk about pay raise or whatever. The money is not why I do this. I do it because I really care about my teams. I really care about coaching and the influence that I have on kids. So that's what Level Up's all about. I want to give a shout out to all our coaches who will be listening. And obviously, I love you guys all. I've gotten to meet every single one of them, and all of them have a great mind for the game. And all the great kids and families who are going to be listening to this from Level Up, thank you for all you do, and thank you for what you do for our program as well and supporting us. And once again, to Jesse, thank you for coming on. Ken, we really appreciate it, and we love Level Up. So follow Level Up at levelup_LI on all social media platforms. And I look forward to many more years of being a part of this program.
Amen. All that is the most important part about what you guys do is you make a difference in people's lives. You build those friendships, you build those bonds and those bridges that help, again, our youth become the leaders of tomorrow. And again, I wish I was in an organization like you guys. I wouldn't have turned out the way I turned out. But no, all kidding aside, we love what Level Up Long Island has done for the basketball community and the community in the game of life that is most important here. But Coach, I know you're a busy man, so I want to give you the opportunity to say anything else if you want to say to people out there that are fans of yours, supporters, whether it's anybody that's in the program, coaches, whatever else you might want to say. I give you the opportunity now, and anything else you'd like to promote, plug, share, and say. And it's been a tremendous honor, and certainly you have been somebody, I think, for about 2 years that we've wanted to have on Sportswire. So you've been an elusive guest for us, but we were certainly glad to finally make it happen. And I turn it over to you, and the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, my closing thoughts are just to thank you guys just for having me on the show and, talking about my journey throughout high school, college, and, through Level Up, all things that I'm very passionate about. And, just a fun conversation. I enjoyed being on here. And, anytime you guys want me to come on again, I'd be happy. So
hope it's 2 years from now. Let's hope it's not in 2025 is the next appearance.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly have to brag tough questions. I mean, hopefully it won't be till 25.
Different topics then.
Absolutely no question about that. I want everybody to follow you also Winterfresh12 on Instagram, levelup_LI on Instagram and Twitter as well. And I also just want to thank you for everything that you do really on the game of basketball. And I think it was also a reason that I personally wanted to have you on, because we cover so much about D3 athletics, especially for me here with the Sports Report and Sportswire Radio, doing this for about 4.5 years. And I've always thought it's important to highlight the journey of a D3 athlete. Everybody thinks, oh, well, D3, they don't do anything. It's not D1. But what a D3 athlete goes through to be able to continue their love of the game, whether it's basketball or any other sport, I thought it was so important to highlight your journey, because you were one of the resounding success stories. Brad is obviously also another one, and Coach Dempsey, and I mean many others that have come onto Sportswire. And that's why I really thought it was important to have you on tonight, because a D3 athlete, I think in so many ways, criminally is underrated, criminally is overlooked and underappreciated, because everything you go through, whether it's being a student athlete, whether it's going through the love of the game and dealing with family, work responsibilities, all those different things. And for what you guys were able to do for your careers, and especially, Coach, what you've done, I think it's remarkable, and I have all the respect in the world. That's why I really wanted to have you on to showcase and highlight that journey. So thank you for allowing us to do that and present that to people tonight on Sportswire that may not be basketball fans and may not understand the D3 game, because there are a lot of fans of us on Sportswire that, thankfully have gotten on this journey the past few years, but they don't understand what Brad went through, what you went through to play in this game and have the success. So that's why I thought it was so important to bring you guys on and have that journey shared in so many people's lives and homes. And I want to thank everybody here for tuning in on Sportswire Radio, as we were joined by the legendary Jesse Winter, formerly the all-time leading scorer of our Cortland Red Dragons men's basketball team, now second all-time in scoring. Also had a number of different accomplishments there when it came to NABC, when it came to ECAC, and so many other awards in his conference. The SUNYAC, also playing in the NCAA tournament, winning a game, having the program's most successful season in 13 years. years. He certainly did a lot there under the legendary coach Tom Spanbauer, also in the Southside High School Hall of Fame FIBA trainer, also played professionally in Israel, is also now the president and CEO for the past 6 years of the Level Up Long Island Basketball Organization. One more time, follow them on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at levelup_LI, and join me to share this story here about Coach Winters, the brute force Brad Weiss, one of Coach Winters' coaches there. And of course, Brad Weiss, a legendary athlete in his own right, has a poster in the Dandy Center from his SJLI Golden Eagles days. He's 27th all-time in school history and rebound, to the top of the list all-time in block shots. And he is also the head coach for our Plainview Boys JV basketball team, also with the Long Island Nets, doing some great things there also. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. If you are on sportnarium.com/player, you'll go back to your regularly scheduled program. If you're on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, the Friday night gang will be back tomorrow night, 9:30 Eastern. I'll also be back with more basketball coverage Sunday night with Eric Kotovsky, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. And Tuesday, Brad, one of your old rivals, Divine Chisholm, 9:30 p.m. Eastern time from the York Cardinals, 1,000-point scorer, just finished his career. I want to thank Coach Jamel Gist for that opportunity and the program there at York. But thank everybody for tuning in on the number one global radio station, that is Sportswire Radio. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, and thank you.